Hi, I'm Dan Marion, joined today by my brothers Jim and Brian Marion. Collectively, we represent three of the major metropolitan marketplaces in the United States. We're all fourth generation realtors. I've been in Chicago for just over 21 years selling real estate. Jim is in the Denver marketplace. He's been there for 24 years, and Brian in the San Francisco marketplace, who's been there for 7 years. So, and if those numbers aren't accurate, that's okay. We're here to talk about what's going on in our current local marketplaces. So, Jim, let's start with you being the elder brothersman. Are there any showings going on your listings, like virtually or in person? And what precautions are you currently taking?
As of last week, we're not allowed to show any homes in person. The governor's order has been interpreted by the attorney general that we can basically not do anything in person. So we've switched to all virtual tours at this point. So like Matterport or other things like that, where people can walk through the whole home, are really key to this market.
Okay. And now, Brian, what about you in the San Francisco marketplace?
The Bay Area was one of the first to put restrictions on showings, and just until recently, there was no showings allowed. Now they could only be done on unoccupied properties, and also have to be no more than two people.
Okay. And what precautions during those showings, like in Chicago, it's pretty similar where we are allowed, we're considered an essential business, and we have been doing showings. Everyone's in masks, gloves, hand sanitizer. I mean, similar, you're noticing on the showing, similar precautions being taken?
Just a lot less showings in general, and typically just doing showings via lockbox or other forms of contactless showing.
Okay. And Jim, if it's a tenant occupied property, you're not allowed to go in there at all? And is that the same?
There's zero showings allowed until the end of the month and until the order is revised, hopefully.
And is anything getting sold virtually? Are deals being written?
What's interesting is our market is remarkably resilient. Denver County is actually up 4% in sales, and Boulder County, because the average sale price in Boulder specifically is over $1 million. The jumbo loans have gotten hit really bad. We're actually down 13% in Boulder County due to that higher price point getting nailed.
Okay. And Brian, in San Francisco, are deals being written, or is everyone kind of on pause still?
You're still seeing some activity, but it's a fraction of what it normally would be this time of year.
Okay. And then I think across the board, new listings have been down no matter, across the nation, new listings this time of year compared to last time of year have been down to about like 34% roughly. Jim, let's start with you. What are you telling your sellers right now to do at this point?
Well, because our sales are actually still pretty consistent, there's very little motivation, I think, to not be on the market. There's a quadrant of agents out there who are basically advising clients to take their home off the market. But I think what's going to happen is once the order's lifted, there's going to be a land rush then of them putting it back on. Whereas right now we have serious buyers still writing offers. And as long as we can get under contract, then we're allowed to go into the home and look at it. So a lot of agents right now are given a 24-hour look period in those contracts where you get under contract. You have 24 hours to actually look at it in person once you're under contract, and then eject out of that transaction quickly and easily if needed. So that's kind of the new normal we're operating in right now.
Okay. And Brian, in San Francisco, which is always known as one of the hottest markets in the country, are new deals being written, or is it kind of the same where people are just in the wait and see type mode?
I'd say probably 80% of the people are just on pause and wait and see. The deals we are working on are longer term deals, like investment deals. We do mostly commercial out here, so sites that would be entitled for high density multifamily, sites for industrial use, a lot of those are still moving forward, and some of our clients have become more aggressive, but most of our sellers and landlords and tenants have kind of taken a pause to see where things go, especially since some of them are in businesses directly affected by the closures in the Bay Area as non-essential business.
Now, with also being in the San Francisco market, like one of the things I was talking to an investor yesterday, and is he thinks there's going to be a big shift away from the condominium living and more into the single family market. So he's having me go hunt in a new direction that he's never gone before, which is trying to pick up a number of different single families. Now, what's your take on that? And Jim, I know you are more single family based anyways, but Brian, on that type of or end of the market, do you think there's going to be a shift in what's happening on the condo market?
I think that in San Francisco in particular, there's a lot of restrictions on condominiums and single families and rentals in general. So we're seeing more of a shift just in location to the cities with less rent control and less restrictions on that, as opposed to just a strictly class type shift.
Okay.
And, I'd say in Denver and Boulder area, we do not have the heavy condo stock like you noted, Dan. However, I've had this theory that once people are living in a box, 750 square foot box or 1,500 square foot box for a month and, working on top of each other, that we're probably going to see the market have a seismic shift towards larger, more single family or just larger townhome type of, product. And it's kind of interesting because for the first 2 weeks, the shutdown in our state occurred right around mid-March till about the end of March. It was pretty much crickets as far as people reaching out to me. But once the market once the realization occurred that, hey, this is kind of the new normal, about week 3, my phone and email started to light back up with people who were living in small boxes, basically wanting to get out of that kind of situation. And so I think that over the long term, we're going to see people who can move out of those situations do so, because COVID is not going away. The next 24 months are probably going to be in some way, shape, or form impacted by it, and people are going to have that as a concern in their living space.
And I think that's one of the things that in Chicago we've noticed over the last 10 days roughly is a lot of people, when the first few weeks of March or the first few weeks going into March, even the end of March, was crickets. And now we're starting to see people who are like, look, if this is the new norm, I've got to make a move. I've got to buy. I've got to sell. Let's go for it. And we're seeing more and more showings. And the showings, over the last 5 days have really picked up a decent amount where, every day I've had showings on my plate, which is, my wife's glad I'm out of the house now, which is good. And hopefully, that continues. And I think you'll see that stronger because I've had some sellers who've held off over the last 3-4 weeks, a number of sellers. And, I've got some who are just saying, hey, by May, I want to be on the market no matter what, because I've got to make my move this summer. Mm-hmm. So good. All right. And so now, Jim, I know you talked about the new normal. Brian, do you foresee this and before coming into this current pandemic, we were in a real strong market, and I think most of you would agree. And no matter where we interviewed an agent, it would be the same outcome, that it's been a strong market up until the COVID hit. Brian, what do you see as the new norm in California, since California is a little more on the cutting edge and tends to see things first? What do you foresee as the new norm for the California marketplace?
Well, as mentioned earlier, we focus mostly on commercial. I think we're going to see a lot of problems with the retail leasing, the restaurants, the stores, the things that are directly affected, as non-essential businesses. So I think that's going to slow down some growth in certain areas where the retail isn't able to maintain operation and additional spaces go vacant. But, at the end of the day, this is an area where people want to invest. The topography makes the real estate scarcer than some other markets, and the fact that most of the large tech companies and a lot of world leading companies are here, there's a far more job creation and population growth than there is housing creation. So I think, even through this time, we'll see that continued demand, make it a decent market for the near future.
Yeah. Good. And Jim, you think the same thing, the new norm once the ban is lifted for Colorado showings are going to be people wearing masks and gloves and sanitizer everywhere?
Yeah, I think we're not going to have a complete lifting of any governor orders nationwide. Most of the states, I think, are still going to have more of a modified order come May, where they're going to start to open up aspects of the economy that might allow maybe restaurants to have 50% occupancy, maybe 6 feet of space between table type of thing. And for real estate, my hope in Colorado is that we begin to then allow showings that are not stacked on top of each other. So, only one, group of buyers in at a time, and maybe they have to keep their hands in their pocket the whole time and have all the lights and doors already open for them. And maybe the agent needing to continue to wear a mask and gloves to touch any surface in a house. But my hope is that it begins to open back up to restore some normality to it. And I think that, when you look at the National Association of Realtors chief economist saying that, he expects sale prices nationwide to be about 0 to 2% appreciation in 2020 and 2 to 4% in 2021, The lack of inventory nationwide has been a struggle. Brian, in your market, you just touched upon that big time. And here in Colorado and along the Front Range, we've been hit with that pretty bad. So I continue to see that our market is resilient just for the simple fact that there's not enough inventory available for people.
Yeah, perfect. Agreed. All right, guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for your opinion. Anything else you want to say on the state of the market right now going on?
Well, I think the one thing too you'll see with just the virtual showings and stuff, I do think you'll see a lot more push into that technology and the contactless showings and the ways to support encapsulating the property and getting it to the consumer.
So no more of the marketing ploys where we try to jam an open house with 30 people and get 5 offers out of it. Those days are going to be in the rearview mirror.
Never
Not
say
for a
never.
couple of years. Not for a couple of years at least. Yeah. The new normal. I think Brian's right. We're going to see definitely companies who maybe have been trying to gestate this technologies to really get some funding behind them. That probably is going to be one of the low-hanging fruits from an investor perspective for company investments. But when you look at just the amount of time it takes to say create a Matterport tour already, there's some serious costs and time involved with virtualizing that whole experience. So I think it's going to be a struggle in the short term, at least.
Yeah, and I think the consumer still is going to want to get out there, smell the property, see the property, feel the property, see the bad neighbor around the corner if they're there or whatever it is.
You can't smell that cigarette smoke in the house, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can't virtually smell it, can you? We're not there yet. Yeah, smell-o-vision will be coming soon, right? But hey, we want to thank you guys for watching. And any questions, reach out to us. Our contact info is posted below. And thanks again, and we'll get back to you with an update later. Take care.
Thank you.